What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Jiu Jitsu Junction podcast. My name is Andre, and today I'm here with my buddy Henry. Henry is a brown belt at the school that I train at, and he's been doing it for about 15 years, I believe since he was a teenager. And he has some perspectives that I find to be very valuable when I talk to him about grappling, and I'm excited to share some of these things with you guys. And the three general topics that I want to cover today with him are how jiu-jitsu has changed over that period of time, because he's been at one school the whole time and he's seen it kind of happen in real time, right? And how training as a teenager differs from training as an adult, as well as how to familiarize yourself with leg entanglements if you're a complete beginner to those positions. So let's start with how jiu-jitsu has changed over that period of time. I know it's changed a lot. I wasn't there for all of it, but
man, it's been a wild ride because it's almost unrecognizable from what it is now. Back when I first started, hardly even, and I say that like it was a long time ago, but this thing's evolved so fast. It really is almost unrecognizable. We didn't do EBI rules. I know some of the tournaments down south were no time limits, submission only. You don't really see that anymore. ADCC, ADCC is still kind of the big dog on the block, and it's been that way for a long time, and I don't think it's going anywhere. As far as the biggest change for me is one, a lot of people don't know how to wrestle anymore. Or if they do, and jiu-jitsu is a scary thing to try to wrestle because you're sticking your head in the hole if you ain't careful. Guard passing is totally different. Guards don't look anything like they used to, and leg locks, man, they're a real. I mean, it used to be you could get away with not training leg locks until you were a purple, even a brown belt. That don't fly anymore.
I'm feeling that myself. I'm like in the middle of late blue belt, and I'm starting to feel like the pressure from the people who are starting out doing leg locks. And I like the first place I went to learn jiu-jitsu was very much traditional. We didn't do leg locks, and we did maybe one straight ankle, and it was very simplistic.
Well, it's funny because they incorporate it in the rule set because when I first started training, it was actually legal to do a lot of tournaments. It was legal to do crooked foot locks in a gi.
No, that's very different.
Nobody did them. You'd see, straight ankle's kind of always been there. You'd see a knee bar. ADCC, you saw it was much more prevalent. Dean Lister, namely, and Dean kind of had the same country boy idea I had was, I can attack from here up according to your rule set, but what do I do from here down?
Yeah.
Or what do I do if somebody grabs me from here down?
Yeah.
And then the Danahers came along. I really think the guy that bridged the gap between Dean and I know they're probably not related, but you saw Dean doing a lot of leg locks, got involved in MMA, kind of went away for a little bit. And Dean got older and his success rate started going down. He's still a killer. But the guy that was kind of filling that gap was a guy many people know now from the UFC, a guy named Ryan Hall.
Yep.
With his 50-50 system. Then the Danaher guys really started coming on the scene after that. And the biggest change is, as far as just the competition, is you probably see 10 times the leg locks you used to. Gi's, for me now, Gi's become a point game. You see a lot less submissions in the gi than what you used to. That's a lot of what I call stall tactics. And I don't blame them. I mean, the guy is multi-time world champions that win every year on points.
Yeah, they are winning in the rule set as it is given, right? So
where that differentiates for me is my coach. I remember he told that the first days that you should train at least some of the time as if not necessarily hitting somebody, but as if you're throwing punches.
Yeah.
And you can't get a takedown, win an advantage or something and just sit there. There's one that's bad form on the guy on bottom. He's throwing punches. He don't have to submit you. He can beat you to death. And 2, throwing punches, you're going to move.
Yeah.
So the stall tactics really don't. And I know people are going to throw out the UFC, but look what's happening when they're not moving. Somebody is receiving damage from the other person.
Yeah.
Which you don't get in jiu-jitsu. I cannot side control you to death.
Sometimes it feels pretty close though.
I mean, unless I have some kind of a choke, a submission, I don't have enough weight to put on you to side control you to death. But I can punch you in the face until you quit breathing.
Yeah.
In the most morbid terms I can say.
Yeah.
Wrestling is there used to be some guys that could, and there are still wrestlers in jiu-jitsu, don't get me wrong. But like your Justin Raiders, you don't really hear from Justin anymore. Marcelo Garcia was actually a surprisingly good takedown guy. If you look at a lot of his matches, and that's the person I tried to model myself after. Marcelo took a lot of people down. And usually it was arm drag to a single leg. And the other thing I took from Marcelo that I still think holds true today, we get this kind of image of jiu-jitsu of how we want it to be versus how it actually is. How we want it to be is you stay on your back, you twist the guy up, which when you can make it happen is awesome. Looks good on camera. You feel good because, man, he was in an advantageous position because he is on top. He's got gravity. And I still beat him. The reality is 2 people of equal skill, equal size, equal weight, whoever's on top is winning. You can have the most wicked guard in the world. It's still harder to play guard than it is to pass it. For the simple fact, just through gravity, and I've done this, anybody's rolled done this, you have fallen sometimes and passed somebody's guard.
That's definitely true.
I mean, guard passing, and with that being said, guard passing is a totally different thing. Body lock passes were around. Nobody, unless you were in the gi, because that's where the Danaher guys kind of got the idea from. They stole it from the Toriando pass, which has been around for eons. Everybody knows it. You can't do that without a gi on, really. It looks very much different unless you do this.
Yeah.
And then it's a really low Toriando. Body lock passing has changed the game because you can't just rely on butterfly guards. There are people really good at shutting that stuff down. 10th Planet guys, their system works a little bit against it, but it's once you get good at it, it's a very difficult game to stop. Because back when I first started, everybody was standing guard pass. And when's the last time you really saw that? Marcelo did it a lot. Buchecha, Adolfo Vieira, most definitely. He was the king of the Toriando and the standing guard pass, really. One of the best guard passers that ever lived, if not the best. Zanjay. I just forgot the name of his brother. Anyway, Sala Ribeiro. Ryan Hall a little bit, but Ryan Hall is more of a bottom game guy. But yeah, now the guard passing is a lot of body lock, heavy pressure, a little bit of float, but it's floating with pressure, if that makes sense. So they're never just kind of floating around. They're usually like on top of you.
Yeah.
And whatever way you go is whatever way you want to go, they're just going to roll off the backside. We see that Gordon Ryan has got the best one ever.
Yeah.
Because if you really pay attention to his guard pass, and he uses really the same 2 to 3 moves, which is true of everybody really, but he makes them work. And then we circle back to the leg lock game. And this is why, other than the slight cultural shift, because leg locks used to be taboo. I mean, you would, if you want to see an example of that, I forget which ADCC it was, Marcelo Garcia versus Rico Rodriguez. Marcelo submits Rico with the inside heel hook in the absolute division of the biggest jiu-jitsu tournament in the world. Gets bottles and trash thrown at him. They cut that. They usually on the highlights, they stop right there. If you look, you see a bottle flying out.
That's pretty funny.
I mean,
I'm going to have to watch that.
Now, I mean, you get a standing ovation.
Yeah.
And I love that because now that's the one thing I wish we had more of back then was it's about submissions, not points. And now, like, if people see a submission, it's a standing ovation. And you start to see more boos if it's points or even advantages. And you're starting to see more of that. But leg locks, I mean, now if you don't know leg locks, you ain't going to make it. If you're trying to compete, if you're in a gym, I mean, leg locks, they get a stigma of they hurt people. If people cranked on arm locks the way they do leg locks, we'd have a lot more broken arms.
Yeah.
Because people, there's still an egoism about them. Like, I'm not going to tap to a leg lock. I'm not. All right, if you don't tap, just the mechanics of the move, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
You see a lot of that. You see a lot of people not knowing when they're caught. And on top of that, people not knowing how to apply them.
Yeah.
And those two together makes for a bad day. With that being said, you can train leg locks safely. I mean, I've done it for years. Just got to know who you're rolling with. And a lot of times you're going to have to accept the fact that the person you're rolling with is not going to know he's caught. And you're going to have to let it go, and they might beat you after that.
Yep.
But you're just going to be comfortable in the fact knowing that I had him. He doesn't know it.
Yep.
But I had him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really hard shift for people to make. Like just like being okay with knowing that it was happening internally. Like I won. He doesn't know. But
he doesn't. And he's gonna go tell everybody you beat you.
Yep.
Especially if you're a higher belt. The negative aspects of leg locks, other than the injuries, but injuries, if you just, most people say they roll without ego. 1 in 10 actually do.
Sounds about right.
If you roll leg locks and you treat them like any other submission, you will never get hurt. Accidents happen. Accidents happen with all submissions.
Yeah.
So one of the worst injuries I ever saw in the gym was literally somebody falling on somebody, and that wasn't even a submission. I mean, so
yeah.
And then, I mean, in the nature of the sport, if you don't want to get injured, grappling is probably not for you.
Yeah.
Stick with weights, running. I mean, something that's not twisting joints in funky positions with a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it really does feel like if you're approaching leg locks with the same kind of care you would when you're applying submissions to somebody's shoulder.
Yep.
Like I feel like shoulders and twisted leg locks are almost the same kind of.
It's the same energy. You're twisted. Your arm lock is here, so you're doing that. Whereas, if you're here on the shoulder, you're twisting. It's the same thing with a foot. Like, if that's my foot, you're trying to turn it that way or that way with a heel hook. And just the way you apply them. Like, when I do, like, if somebody comes, hey, I want to learn leg locks, we'll roll. And I call it stabilizing. Because if you're truly going to finish something, you have to stabilize it first. And we've all seen this with Vinny Magalesh and Fabricio Verdum at ADCC. Fabricio, they're both insane grapplers, but Fabricio had him caught dead to rights. The arm was hyperextended. Vinny just squirming made that arm lock really hard. Had Fabricio gone, maybe, I'm not Monday night quarterbacking, but in an ideal situation, had he gone underhook on his leg, kept him squirming, Vinny had been in a cast.
Yeah.
Same thing with legs. Like when I apply them, if I'm rolling with somebody I like a Chase, you, anybody at the gym, if somebody doesn't know any better, that's it. I'm not going to connect my hands. I've got his heel. Maybe show it to him one time, know he got it. Or if he doesn't know, just let him go.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to finish, I come here and I'm squeezing. And so I'm pulling the lock in close. I got my legs squeezing together, and I'm stabilizing the whole lower half of their leg. If I can, I'd like to stabilize the whole leg. And then just kind of creep. No, you got it. And if I got to let go, I got to let go.
Yeah.
And same thing it's kind of like with a higher belt rolls with a beginner. Of course they could hurt them. It's not usually a question. I mean, but you don't. You control yourself.
Yeah. It almost feels like There's, the belt system that applies to jiu-jitsu as a whole. And then there's a whole separate belt system like that should be applied to leg locks because of how much of a disparity there is. And
it really is. That's why in the early days, like the good leg lockers from even 5 years ago, or 5 years look kind of short, maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago, are mediocre at best now.
Yeah.
Except for Ryan Hall, just from the sheer amount of leg locks he has applied and pulled off on really, really good people. But you look at the heel hook that Marcelo submitted Rico Rodriguez, and the other thing that makes that impressive is Rico was 300 pounds at the time. Not a good 300, but still a 300-pound black belt.
Yeah.
Marcelo, I think, was 154. And Marcelo didn't even have his legs connected. So, now, these people that have been rolling leg locks for 10, 15 years, they're going to laugh at you.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you look at Gordon Ryan and Eddie Cummins, Gordon Ryan, Gary Tonin, Keenan, Craig Jones is another good one. They're stabilizing the whole lower half of your body. You can't move. You're just picking when you want to tap.
Yeah, like that 11-second heel hook that Gordon got on somebody.
Yeah.
Right? He the person like immediately knew he was screwed because he couldn't.
Sneaky rod.
You just look at his eyes. He's just like, oh, I can't move. Okay, I need a tap right now.
A good example of how slick they've gotten. It's a little known match because it lasts about 12 seconds. Is Craig Jones versus a guy named Tex Johnson.
Oh, I know about this one, yeah.
And this is where most people mess up. For you, the listeners, mess up when they learn leg locks. You don't know how to pass guard already, so you're using leg locks to get around passing guard. You need to know how to pass guard, and then if you have trouble passing guard, you mix the leg locks in. And if you can't get the leg lock, 90% of the time you're past their guard because they're worried about the leg lock.
Yeah.
So take that however you want, but that's just the simple truth. And that in our gym, that's why our coach said no leg locks. Because people are getting hurt because egos. 2, nobody knows how to pass guard. Because they're like, why don't they pass guard when I just finish here? See, look at that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny with the prevalence of the two. You talked about 2 major changes. One is people becoming more. They don't wrestle, right? And that used to just be standard, right? If you did jiu-jitsu, you did some judo or some wrestling. Like that was just what it was over a decade ago. Like everybody knew a little bit about how to stand up. And now we're mixing in advanced leg locks. And that's like the antithesis of actually working on the wrestling stuff. So it's like it feels like it's like branching out like how much is in the grappling game so people are feeling forced to specialize.
Yeah, there's some of that like and I say can't wrestle. I think it's more of choosing not to wrestle. Because if you take a shot and you put yourself in a bad spot, you're way behind. But like Gordon oftentimes will sit down.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
Probably the reason is nobody can pass his guard. Don't blame the guy a bit. 2, and this is the reason I became a quote-unquote leg locker in the gym. If you roll with a lot of people and they know you have a good guard, they're going to spend a lot of time standing up, like if you triangle them, you arm lock them, whatever. Standing up and pulling their upper extremities away from you. And what are they leaving near you?
Their legs.
So that for me, that is when the leg locks truly start, because I very rarely do a leg lock from topside. Probably 75% come from the bottom.
Yeah.
Because, if you pull back really hard, yep, I'm out, but both my feet are still here and you're really far away.
Yep.
At its most basic level.
Yeah.
The wrestling, plain and simple, the reason that's not probably where it should be is because they're not getting hit.
That makes sense.
If you get put in full guard and you get your face put through the floor, I promise you'll learn how to wrestle.
Yeah. I remember one time our coach had one of our smaller amateur MMA fighters put on gloves, and and coach was just like, just make it realistic for him.
Yep.
Man, that made me want to sweep so much faster. Like, it made me not want to be on my back, and it made me realize how much I need to know how to wrestle.
Well, I mean, and not to get too off subject, but they used to say, like, every 10 pounds is a belt.
Yeah.
Every punch is a belt down.
Oh,
So a brown belt, I'm talking about V is cracked. I mean, a black belt, V is cracked. It's probably about brown belt now. It gets cracked again, it's probably about purple belt. And we've already seen this in the UFC. Adolfo Vieira got choked out.
Yeah.
Because he got cracked and he got tired. Dude got on his back and finished him.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never heard that one. The getting hit in the face, bring you down a belt level. That makes a lot of sense.
It will make you do something that you normally wouldn't do if you weren't getting hit.
Yeah.
Forrest Griffin choked out Shogun Rua. Shogun's a legitimate black belt. He's a legend. And this is when Shogun was still Shogun, not the one we all remember that fought John Jones. It was way before that. Got tired, got hit a bunch. Forrest got on his back, spread him out, choked him out.
Yeah, I guess that's why we see jiu-jitsu guys like
Matt Hughes beat Hoist. Although Hoist was a little aged at the time.
Yeah.
Matt Hughes beat Hoist Gracie grappling. The difference is Matt Hughes was not grappling. He was grappling with punches. It's that way, more modern times. Habib choked out Dustin Poirier. Islam Makhachev choked out Charles Oliveira.
It's very interesting. Yeah, it puts things into perspective when you think about what adding a couple of punches does.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Any damage at all. The evolution is there's so many people doing jiu-jitsu now. It's going to be nothing but positive. You're always going to have the bad people, the bad guys. The more people you have involved in something, the more positive evolution is going to occur. With that massive amount of people, you're also going to have some negatives. It's as simple as that. When jiu-jitsu first came to America in the 90s, I was a little kid, didn't even know what it was. And this is a shot in the dark. 1996, just spitting a year out there was probably 10 black belts in the USA. Probably 20 in the world. Mm-hmm. And I'm willing to bet all but a handful had Gracie as their last name. How many black belts do we have now?
A lot.
Tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Probably not hundreds of thousands, but I guarantee it's in the tens of thousands. Hell, you got a black belt in almost every little town now.
Yeah.
There's going to be evolution. Like a guard we all play, De La Riva, that's a guy's name, Ricardo De La Riva.
Yep.
Or Ricardo if you're Portuguese. That came from somebody that could not play traditional guards. He was really flexible. He had dexterous feet, and he was a smaller guy.
Yeah.
Half guard came out of necessity. I believe it was Hickson broke his leg, so he only played guard on one side. Before that, half guard really didn't exist. Marcelo Garcia, ex-guard. It was a thing. It was, in fact, around. Not near to the extent it is now. The Danaher Death Squad and Dean Lister. Leg locks. Kimura Trap series. That came from, Worm Guard came Keenan Cornelius. Caio Tierra. Brada Plata and the Tierra ankle lock. Probably mispronouncing his last name. You have to forgive me. Mm-hmm. The Toriando passes from Ricardo De La Riva. Not Ricardo De La Riva. Rodolfo Vieira. So without more people opening up, none of that happens.
Yeah. Well, you have tens of thousands of people like putting hundreds or thousands of hours of work into finding advantages within a rule set.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have some pretty cool innovations.
Oh yeah, And some of us good, some of us bad. I mean, I forgot to mention probably the biggest one, Eddie Bravo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Dude's really flexible, has really long legs. He had to make it work. Jean-Jacques Machado. He's got, I can't remember which hand it is, but he's only got that much of a hand on one. I can't remember which side it is. So his game involves heavy uses of overhooks, which you don't see, and underhooks because he can't actually grip. He's got one gripping side and one that he can only grip like that. Dude, 180 cc. I mean, so it can be done. And you got different body types play a different role too. Marcelo, short, stocky, so a lot of elevator type guards, sweeps, a lot of chokes, arm locks. I mean, if you look at Marcelo, if you broke down, I think you can still do it. I can't remember what that one website is where it breaks down all their submissions. If you break down all the submission victories he had, probably 75% are chokes, 10% are arm locks, and then however much left is what just other random gi chokes and the 1 or 2 foot locks. And you can do that with any jiu-jitsu guy. Look at Gordon Ryan. Rear naked, or that across the face rear naked he does. Yep. Inside heel hook, probably 50% of his wins.
Yeah.
If it's not in overtime.
Yeah. That makes sense.
That's one thing I like the EBI rules, but the overtimes you're seeing. It's hard to blanket term anything. You're seeing some people that are getting good at not losing in the regulation and knowing how to win in overtime.
like Nicky Rod.
It's an example of an athletic wrestler.
Yeah.
The dude is a motherfucker because he is really strong, he's really explosive, and he trains with the best in the world.
Yeah.
Gotta learn how to wrestle.
Yeah.
Imagine if Nicky Rod was throwing punches.
Oh my God, that's terrifying.
Yeah, so that would definitely, his lose ratio would be a lot lower.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I mean, the dude spends all the time on top. Yeah, I mean, it's getting better. It's I will say one trait that is better now than even when I first started. It was way worse before I got in. Before I got in, you could not ask a black belt to roll.
Oh yeah, the that kind of cultural norms. Yeah,
I mean, they were just assholes. Yeah, and there's no reason to be that way because jiu-jitsu is nowhere near as refined as wrestling. I'm sorry, I love jiu-jitsu. I like wrestling. If you want a system to take a 4-year-old to make him a gold medalist, you cannot beat wrestling.
Yeah.
And you can go into almost any college gym and they'll wrestle with you.
Yeah.
Anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to like it, but they'll do it. And they generally, they ain't going to hurt you.
Yeah.
Even though they could. Oh, there's no submissions in wrestling. No, but they can suplex you on your head.
Yeah.
A little bit when I first got in, if you ask a black belt to roll, generally they're trying to fight you.
Yeah.
I understand there's an aspect of how you ask, but if me and you are the only ones out and you're a black belt, I shouldn't be scared to ask you to roll. If you got that much of ego, that's a you problem.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there there are gyms that are still like that.
Oh, I'm aware.
Yeah,
I'm very aware. I'm not like that. I roll with every student that I teach. I guarantee you I've rolled with them. Now, barring injuries, I get that. I mean, or if you've just been training all day.
Whoops. There we go.
If you've been training all day, you can't. I mean, you can't do that to your body.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Are there any other cultural norms, things that are in that vein that used to exist that don't exist anymore? Or exist less?
It's existing less. Like a lot of places had a lineage wall.
Yeah.
That you had to turn away from if you're tying your belt. That's really not I mean, I know some places still do, but you don't see that much anymore. I do like that a lot of places are still divvying up training classes by experience level, because you have to be really careful letting black belts roll with white belts and vice versa, because you'll get a white belt that saw the UFC one time and he's I'm going to tap me a black belt. Recipe for disaster. And sometimes you get the ego-driven black belt rolling with somebody that's doesn't have a chance. Yeah. And he's just going to smash them.
Yeah. Black belt with a bad day.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just not a good thing. I mean, it's really not. That's why I like the old model, or the only model I really knew was like your blues and your purple belts taught the beginners class, and the black belt taught the advanced class. And it was like a special treat for the black belt to teach the beginners, and it kept them coming.
Yeah.
Like, I remember that when I first started, like, man, yeah, he's teaching tonight. That's fucking cool.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, man, it's a black belt. We're going to learn some black belt shit. We're going to learn some cool shit.
They're like a Jedi master.
It's like, it had that, and for a business model, I mean, that's great, because you just dip that little toe in the water one time. Yeah. And I do like that, because your purples and blues, I mean, they'll still give a white belt anything they want. They tend not to have the ego. Which should be on the head coach to kind of filter some of that out.
What do you? There's something that used to happen at my old gym. Did you ever go to any schools where they would like purposefully pair off individuals? Like the coach would just be like, you.
Yeah, I've done it before. Depending on how you do it, it's got a purpose. Like I did it because, well, those two over there have rolled for the last 4 rounds. And it's messing up the rotation. That's why I know you were there when I used to say this. I was like, if it's an even number and we got enough time to do that many rounds, hey, everybody make sure you roll with everybody else at least once. And it'll keep the rotation. One of the gyms I trained at, to clarify, I've trained at with the same coach my whole career. I've never stayed at the same gym, the same location. But one of the gyms I trained at, one of the coaches, that's what he would do. He's like, you roll with you, and you roll with you. I didn't mind it. Because what it did was, you couldn't hide.
That's true.
And you could not be hidden from.
Yep. So
we've all had those shit days where you're tired. I'm just going to roll with the 3 easiest people I can get. Whether you want to admit it or not, the thought has crossed your mind.
Yeah.
If you've trained any length of time at anything. Don't matter what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
That stops that. Now, if they're sicking people on you, which I've experienced rolling with other gyms, it can get a little annoying.
Yeah.
Personally, you should let the asshole be an asshole before you check him.
Yeah. And
if he's actually a really cool guy, then you should roll with him. If he knows a lot, just try to learn something. And I will say that's a norm that has changed a little bit, like the new guy don't know shit type norm. Yeah, he might not know nothing about jiu-jitsu. He might have wrestled for 14 years.
That's true. Like we're having a lot of wrestlers walk into jiu-jitsu because they're looking for a new place to compete.
Yeah, go ahead and start on the feet with him. You might be a black belt on the ground. You ain't a black belt wrestling.
Yeah, white belt on the ground.
So, or a lot of judokas.
Yeah.
You can learn a lot from them. And even the occasional sambo guy you get coming through, you can learn a lot from them too.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any experience with sambo guys.
They can wrestle, they can do a little bit of judo, and their transitions are ridiculously hard and fast. Because it's a cool thing. I mean, a lot of people saying leg locks came from sambo. They really did, and they were always in jiu-jitsu. We just, for some reason, chose not to use them. And the guys that did were stigmatized for the longest time.
Yeah, they were the villains, and they were winning.
I mean, I'll never be able to do this. If I ever get to put on a grappling tournament, There's always gonna be an absolute division because it's my favorite division. I would like to do an absolute gi and no gi, and all the other weight classes the way they do it, experience level, all that stuff. Unless it's a kid under 12, or if you two have a gentleman's agreement before the match that you shake hands on, you can't slam, you can't fish hook, you can't throw punches. Gi or no gi, no holds barred. I mean,
I will not be competing in this tournament. No.
Well, I mean, it'd be the purest form of grappling.
Yeah, that is the purest form of grappling, though. Yeah. 100%.
I mean, if you want to neck crank everybody, go ahead. Yeah. I mean, if you want, I mean,
you have to look people in the eyes afterwards, though.
Well, I mean, there's some of that, but a tournament setting, competing is a different atmosphere. Like, I would never do that to somebody rolling.
Yeah.
Tournament's different. Just like,
I guess I was imagining it as like an in-house smoker, but that's not really what we're talking about here. We're talking about.
I'm talking about like if I was God for a day in jiu-jitsu and I had the ability to put on a massive tournament to everybody. I mean, the rule sheet would be about that big. More of it would be like weight classes and when to show up than the actual rules. And you would find out who the best grapplers are. Not the guys that play the points game, not the guys that know how to stall out, not the guys that wait till overtime. All right, man, it's you and you until one of you taps.
That would be interesting.
And if it takes all night, it takes all night. And you would quickly find out who the best in the world is.
Yeah, that would be interesting. It probably won't ever happen. But
never will. They did try to before, and it takes. I mean, you'll have those just 2.5 hour. I mean, like, please stop. Well, I mean, some of them just go at it, and then they're so gassed, they're just laying on each other. You're like, man, please stop. Somebody's about to have a heart attack.
It's like the boxer hugs. You're just like, I can't take any more pounding.
I saw one. Oh my God, it was horrible. So I was 16. I was competing down in Greensboro. And these two old guys, these I think, what do they call it when they're 50 and up? I think it's executives.
Yeah, I think that's.
Dude, I'd have given both of them a gold medal because there was not a drop of quit on that mat. And it was 1 hour and 45 minutes, man. And they were standing back up, and they're clubbing their heads, and they're shooting, and then they're on the ground. They had a little bit of guard. I mean, they're old, and they probably got no joints left. But the guard they had was actually pretty cool. And this guy's passing, and they did that for an hour. And I was like, dude, this is actually the best match of the whole day. And finally, like the hour 45 mark, I mean, they got their hands on their knees and just looking at each other. They're about 5 feet apart, and then they come together. One of them takes the other one down. And the ref's like, this enough. It's 2 gold medals. I mean, I can't remember what they did, but I was like, I remember the ref saying that somebody's going to have a heart attack. But, dude, let it be known, whoever those 2 guys are, hats off to you. And nobody could say that you don't have grit. Because they went at it way harder and for way longer than most people would have.
Yeah. God, including the professionals, right?
God. There was one. There's actually it's an old YouTube video. They did a BJJ Kumite. I think it was Keenan. Is Keenan somebody? It might have been Keenan and Gary Tolan. Or who was it? They went for like 2 hours. I mean, and funny thing too, everybody, including leg locks, still your base submissions and your base transitions will win the match.
Yeah. Because
after that, and Keenan's got he's kind of fell off in the past few years. He's still got one of the wickedest guards that's ever been around. Keenan won with an arm lock from Mount. If I remember correctly. And I was like, there you go. There was no worm guard at the end. There was no inverted upside down, backwards, whatever you want to call it, guard. He got mount, switched ass mount, and hit an arm lock. Day 1 jiu-jitsu.
I mean, there's a reason why that's there first. You know,
look at Hodger Gracie.
Yeah,
argued to be the best in the gi that's ever lived. Had 3 submissions. And I mean, the shit works. The basic stuff works. I love the cool stuff. I love, the barambolos and, all the spinning. But when push comes to shove, you can rely on the basics.
Yeah.
You don't see anybody barimbolo in the UFC for a reason. And you also don't see it at an hour 45 of a match for a reason.
What would those two old guys have tried?
Oh, one of them would have broke. It sounded like a 2x4 snapping. I mean, would they have tried? Yeah, like, dude, like their flexibility and mobility are not the words I would use to describe them, especially at that point.
Well, they're nice and warm, right?
I mean, yeah, if I steam up this table, we still can't fold it. Stiff is still stiff.
Oh God, I wish that there was like a video of that so I could experience
I wish.
it.
I mean, I had a flip phone at the time. My dad had to drive me out of that tournament. I think I was on my learner's permit. We drove. I mean, I say he had to drive me. I drove. He just had to be in the car, so he was sleeping. So I drove. We drove and this place. I mean, it was in the ghetto, and then it wasn't a ghetto. Like, I was like, I don't think we're in the right place, man. 'Cause this is back we had MapQuest printed directions. My dad had a flip phone. I had a flip phone. And I'm like, it's like,
hey, wake up. Are we in the right place? Can you double check me?
I was like, I don't think this is where it's at. And we drove straight through this little neighborhood. It opened up this beautiful green field with this great big old building. A brand new, it's like a community center type deal.
Right. Walked
in there, checked me in. There's the mats. Here's the scale. Here's the time you're gonna be out. I'm like, well, okay then.
It sounds more well run than the tournaments I've been to recently.
Oh, they're garbage, man. It is. I mean, jiu-jitsu guys, fighters, and wrestlers are not businessmen. No. If you're gonna run a tournament, this is what I'm gonna give you the secret to life right here to run a tournament. You need to hire a secretary, an accountant, and a businessman. Yeah. Let them take care of the logistical stuff, because fighters and jiu-jitsu guys are the worst logisticians and accountants in human history. I mean, like, dude, like, you need to find one of your students. Our students are made up from regular people in the community. Yeah. Hey, man, aren't you an accountant? Yeah. All right. You're gonna do the books this weekend. Yeah. I'll give you if you're a black belt, I'll give you a free private for it. Yeah, exactly. Like, dude, because I've never been at a jiu-jitsu tournament that's not like just pulling teeth. Yeah.
Oh man,
I don't know. I'm sure ADCC is much better. I've never been to a real big tournament. The biggest ones I've been at have been like Naga, championship stuff. But it's still, oh yeah, we're supposed to start at 10, and then 1500 in the afternoon. You're still waiting. You're like, dude, this is never gonna happen.
Yeah, you're just sitting there on your like third bag of like snacks to try and make it to your tournament.
It got bad enough. The last tournament I did, I had my regular gym bag, mouthpiece, all that stuff, sleeping bag, and a pillow.
that's a great idea.
I was like, dude, I mean,
wait, did you?
You're gonna end up sleeping on the bleachers.
Yeah. Did you wake up from your nap and beat the crap out of someone?
No. Actually, that tournament, ironically, was the one that ran on time.
Really?
The sleeping bag never came unrolled. It was like, so we got there. It was like some check-ins at 9, rules meetings at 9:30, and I was like, so I showed up at like 8:45, and here's your. I can't remember how they might have been doing stamps or wristbands, however they did it. And so I had my table. Yep. And they had a printer in the corner, and they're printing off all the brackets. Yep. Henry Fowler, I forget who the other guy. Yep. Are y'all here? Yeah. All right, we'll just sit in that little bullpen there, and we'll be with you in a minute. That's actually pleasantly surprised.
That is a pleasant surprise.
It was awesome. I don't even think they exist anymore. They were U.S. Grappling. That's who did it. Naga is such a broad spectrum. Like, you don't know what you're getting. Like, I've had one where we were 6 hours behind. I had one that was running like clockwork.
Yeah.
We had one that went into the next day. He So that was just a goat roping to start with.
Man.
They're getting better. That's the other thing that's kind of the cultural shift in the jiu-jitsu world. There used to be kind of one set of rules. And now you can kind of like, you got the IBJJF rules, you got the ADCC rules, you got EBI rules, and you got happy mediums between all of them. So
yeah, it's like you need to study your rule set. You can't just compete in any one of them.
Yeah, I agree with that to a point. You should train. I mean, it's gonna sound arrogant. You should train to win.
Yeah.
And if you win, regardless of what rule set you're in, you've pretty much won.
Yeah. Well, that's the best case.
I mean, if you
don't want to do anything illegal though.
I mean, it's actually. I mean, there's a lot more rules. Well, in the gi, yeah, you can get DQ for some stupid shit. I remember one year they trying to say Berimbolo was a reverse knee reap. And it's like 5 black belts got disqualified.
That seems ridiculous.
I mean, it was ridiculous. It was just, if your legs are that weak, you wouldn't be able to walk. Like, yeah, I mean, your tendons are not just gonna. Oh, I mean, it's gonna like people are like, oh man, if you just touch my heel, it'll break. And I was like, no, a heel hook is still actually kind of challenging to finish.
Yeah,
it's not the end all be all.
Yeah, you've got a pretty decent amount of space before things start breaking.
Well, I mean, the guy's also resisting you.
Yeah,
he's trying to turn his foot the other way, or he's straightening his leg out. Like, I love it. Oh, his leg just broke. No, it got broken.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't happen by accident.
It's like, or it was compromised before you went in. And that's on you.
Yeah, for sure.
You should know your own body and tap accordingly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, if you're going to start out grappling, one, you got to step through the door. You have to show up.
Yeah.
I would recommend if you're still in public school, you need to. You should wrestle.
Yeah.
It's free at a public school. You'll learn something. You'll get if nothing else, you'll get in good shape. If you're older, one, you should sit down and be honest with yourself. What am I doing jiu-jitsu for? If you're trying to compete, if you're already older, you got a long road ahead of you.
What do you consider to be like the break point to where you're in this are you older kind of bracket?
You should look at your peers. I mean, if you're 16, if you're 16, like you got time. If you're 29 and you're wanting to compete, you don't have time.
Yeah.
Simple as that. You should also know your body. Like if you got just injury after injury after injury, you need to be careful about how you train. That's another huge thing that's changed over the years. Nobody that's competing is going to rub a lot of people the wrong way.
Do it.
I can't make blanket terms because there's going to be one or two of you out there that aren't. Most of you are on steroids.
Oh,
yeah. I mean,
yep.
Whether you want to admit it or not. And if you're not on steroids,
you're on TRT.
Steroids, yeah. Oh, yeah, I got low testosterone. I'm 21. That's kind of funny. When I tested you, you had like 8 times the normal amount. Last I checked, low meant you should be below the normal. Anyways, that's the most ridiculous game. It's not illegal. I mean, it's not. It's well within your rule set. Just be honest. I mean, that's, for me personally, that gripes my ass. Like, just say it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're going to look so much better. That's why nobody hates bodybuilders.
Yeah.
They're all honest. Of course they're on steroids.
Yeah, you think my biceps would have biceps if I wasn't on some gear?
Do I blame them? No, it's in the rule set. There is no. I mean, you look at. I think it's IBJJF tested all the gold medalists and like all of them popped out.
Yeah.
I mean, like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
If you're older, dude, steroids help. They help your recovery. They help you build muscle, all this other stuff. I would say if you're gonna do it, be smart about it.
Yeah.
The other thing is everybody's on a program. They're not just grappling. Back in the day, like I remember Marcelo gave a speech one time. They asked, this is when he was still competing. I think it might have been 2006, 2007. They were at his gym. I think he was still training in Brazil, but he'd like travel. He'd train at various places. That's where you get all his videos. Him like rolling like Andre Arlovsky and all these other people. Before he had his gym in New York, they asked him how he trained. He said, "I roll." Well, what if you're getting ready for a bigger person? I roll bigger people. And I'm paraphrasing, of course, but the gist was, if he wanted conditioning, he rolled faster for longer. If he wanted strength, he rolled with bigger people and stay on the bottom. I hate to say it, that ain't going to cut it anymore. You got guys like Gordon Ryan, wakes up, does a drilling session with light rolling, I believe, lifting.
Mm-hmm.
Hard cardio, back in the gym rolling. Lifting, every little bit helps. Good nutrition helps. Back then, they were eating what they were wanting to, smoking weed and rolling for an hour.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, if you don't have fun, I mean, that sounds like a great time. They're lifting. They got cardio. They got trainers. They got nutritionists. Some got personal chefs.
Yeah.
They get that. Honestly, the fitness aspect of it has changed.
Yep.
I mean, you look at them now, they look like athletes. They don't look like some Joe Blow walking down the street. They look like an athlete. And that's what they are. They're a jiu-jitsu athlete.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, MMA went through the same thing. You remember back like Tank Abbott days, you have to do big beer gut, knocking people out.
Yeah.
I mean, when's the last time you saw a fat guy in the UFC? When's the last time you saw like any kind of professional, what we call professional, they're all still broke, jiu-jitsu tournament where the guys are not six-packed out, fast, strong, never get tired.
Yeah, I mean, it's everybody, and like the ones that aren't are memed about on Reddit. Yeah. Like, cause like, oh look, he's moving pretty good for a fat guy.
Yeah, when was the last time you saw a average Joe win?
It doesn't really happen.
Not anymore.
Not at national level or
elite level is gonna be, and that's another big change. Even at the smaller levels, even at regular gyms, you got classes that are just dedicated to lifting or cardio.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got hard drilling classes that actually differentiate.
Yeah, even like nowadays, like for myself personally, I'm like, I can't keep up if I don't actually address my physical attributes, and I didn't, and like it's become more and more important over time.
Oh yeah.
And that's just for like local tournaments. Even like you see people at local tournaments, they're roided out. Like I remember my first tournament was just, I looked at my bracket because I was like, I'm gonna go for 200 because I was like really overweight at the time. I went 260 to 200 in like a year and a half or something. And I was like, okay, we'll do 200. And then I look across the mats and there's like
shredded.
Oh my god. Like he cut weight. He did a water cut for this local tournament, and I was just like,
more and more.
Yeah, and I'm just like, that guy's at least 225, and he's 6 foot.
Yeah,
and he's really muscular. And then the other two people were the same way.
I mean, now don't get me wrong. Just being in good shape ain't gonna cut it. If you don't have the technique, you need to be in the gym working on your technique. However, if you have really good technique and you find you're not doing good, oftentimes it's the physical fitness aspect. Because you can't just work somebody to death. I mean, you can get somebody really. I mean, fatigue makes a quitter out of everybody. Yeah. You can get somebody really tired and you catch them with something that you wouldn't normally catch them with.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
But yeah, I mean this isn't like all like doom and gloom. Like you'll be able to do local tournaments if you want to, and if you put in like a moderate amount of effort into your fitness and you put in a decent amount of effort into your techniques, you can still
do pretty good.
You can do pretty good, but you have to make the right goals for what your situation is.
Be realistic with yourself. If you want to go have fun, just go have fun.
Yeah.
And we got plenty of guys, Jim, that are still really good. I was that way for years. The only thing I did was grapple. I mean, it's probably been in the last 5 or 6 years I've done something outside of grappling. Well, I always ran. I will say that. I always ran. But like actually lifting or really running for cardio, the last 5 years. Before that, on top of that, I lived at the gym all the time, so I was training 7-8 hours a day. But I mean, you'd have the morning class, the noon class, and the night class, and those 2 night classes, and they're all about an hour, so you got just 5 right there. But if you really want to maximize your time, like if you work, obviously roll, but after class, go for a run. Or, go lift for 20, 30 minutes. It'll help.
Yeah,
Help a lot.
20, 30 minutes is enough to get a lot done. It's a huge difference between 0 and 20, 30 minutes.
Well, COVID taught us all that. I mean, you saw the people that were not in shape. COVID really affected them. So just physical fitness will help your life in general. But, I mean, also what COVID taught us is you don't need a giant gym to work out.
No, you don't.
You need a flat spot, maybe a mat. And honestly, if you want to just run, the only thing you need is tennis shoes, socks, underwear, and a shirt.
You should probably wear shorts too.
Yeah, I mean, you need. I mean, that's what you need. Kettlebell is a great thing.
Yeah.
Go buy a kettlebell. I think they sell them at Walmart now. Like $50. Go buy one. If you don't have that, my neighbor is a dude that's never done a lot, but has been inhumanly strong his whole life. The only workout he did for years, he used to get by it. He cut a 12-inch piece of railroad. Come to find out, per foot railroad is 75 pounds.
God damn.
That's what he worked out with.
Huh.
Went to a scrapyard, got it for like $5. So go find another guy. I think Pat, his last name may be Mac. Prior Green Beret, got a bunch of videos on YouTube. He works out with a cinder block.
Yeah.
Shredded. He's like 50.
Yeah.
You don't need to go. Now, if you want to go to the gym to get instruction, yeah, you gotta go to a big gym, get with a trainer, stuff like that. And that's one of the big. That's probably, if not the biggest, one of the biggest changes I've seen in the community. Everybody works out.
Yep.
Some form or fashion. You see that big Kevin. Kevin's he was a power lifter when he came to us. He lost weight. That's one of the reasons Kevin's accelerated the way he has. He was already in shape.
Yeah. Wickedly
strong, kind of, good, decent mobility. But jiu-jitsu, I mean, I believe it's for everybody. As long as you're not paralyzed or anything. I mean,
you just set appropriate goals. Like setting appropriate goals for yourself. Like, it's something you should learn outside of jiu-jitsu too. But like, it matters a lot when it's like an ego-driven kind of combat sport to like kind of like change the way you think about it.
I think the younger you can get kids involved with it, the better. It teaches them how to set goals.
Yeah.
They figure out, oh man, I thought I was gonna be tapping that dude in a year, not even close.
Yeah.
So teaches humbleness. You just gotta be honest with yourself. That's really all I got for how it's changed and everything.
Do you think it's gotten softer? Because when you introduce like a very large population, like you end up like most people are soft.
That's
right?
a hard. Are there more soft people? Yes, but there's more hard people.
Yeah, it's
balanced out. I don't think it's gotten softer.
Okay.
Has it changed? Yes, but there's a reason we do everything in percentages.
Yeah.
Let's say there's 10 people in a room. There's one hard guy and 3 soft guys. So it's 10% versus 33%, give or take. Well, that same percentage in a group of 10,000 people, they got 1,000. I mean,
yeah, that makes sense.
I will say that the hard guys we have now, and you kind of start seeing this in all combat sports. Carrie's gonna laugh at me say this, but
Perfect. I'm sure
mental toughness is a huge thing with me.
Yeah.
I will say mentally, they're softer now.
Really?
They're more lethal. They're faster. They're stronger. If you take all that away and it was just a toughness battle, the guys from 10, 15 years ago smoke them.
Interesting.
technically sound, the guys today will obliterate most of them from past. And we've seen, I bring up the UFC a lot because that's where jiu-jitsu in America got famous.
Yeah.
How many UFC champions, barring Habib, Justin Gaethje, and Dustin Poirier, and a few others I probably forgot to mention, would fight 5 times in a night?
None of them.
By the way, without gloves and no time limits. Exactly. Yeah, guys willing to do that and get paid $10,000. Now you can't get somebody to fight for $150 million. So I mean, if you really want to be, if you really want to talk about mental toughness, like that's the difference. Has it gotten softer? Probably not. Has the styles changed? Of course. Yeah. Just like any combat, any kind of combat ever. Warships, infantry, airplanes, it's all changed because it had to evolve with what the techniques and tactics that are being used.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool.
So what else you got for me?
All right. So you started training as a teenager. I did not start training as a teenager. I'm curious what that was like as a teenager. Because you started at 14? 14?
14. 14 and a half, 15. The difference between me and a lot of teenagers is I wasn't training with teenagers.
Oh, you weren't?
I was training with men. There was no kids class.
Oh, interesting. I didn't
know that. There was, but it was like a Krav Maga kids class. There was no kids jiu-jitsu at the pure jiu-jitsu class at the gym I started training at. Same head coach, but I actually can thank my mom for this. She's like, he don't need to be in there with little kids.
Perfect.
So I was rolling. I was an out of shape, fat, kind of nerdy kid, and I was in there with grown men that had collegiate wrestling backgrounds, kickboxers, blue belts, purple belts in jiu-jitsu. I got my ass handed to me. It was one of the most. I mean, I'm really appreciative now. I think about how many times like I just got smashed. I mean, I was fat, but I wasn't strong.
Yeah.
I wasn't particularly fast. I appreciate it now. I enjoyed it when I was going through it. I mean, I was stupid. I mean, yeah, let's go at it again. Bam! It's like, you know.
Mental toughness, everybody.
It's what it'll get you. I mean, it's just true Darwinism. Either get you killed or make you better. There's no real middle ground. I mean, but what that will teach is that's the reason my technique's falling off from what it used to be. But, like, it'll make your technique good because 225-pound man ain't going to tap to a kid.
Yeah. You
have to tap him.
Okay,
it has to be exactly right.
So, I know of at least one person that came back. I'm gonna say his name, Kirk. Did you ever manage to get him when you were a teenager, or was he just? I'm gonna have a conversation with Kirk about it.
Ask him.
Yeah,
I will say Kirk won a lot more than I did.
Yeah, but how big was he back then?
Part of it was me being small, but that dude was huge. I want to say, Kirk, don't kill me for saying this. I want to say he had to have been 250 pounds when he first came. And he was not a fat 250. Because Kirk actually leaned out, lost muscle mass when we started training.
Interesting.
Because I want to say his last fight was at 205, and he had to cut for it. So he's probably 220.
Okay.
But Kirk was inhuman. The one that was worse than him was I'll say his name, Doc Reno.
Okay, yeah.
Doc Reno to this day is still a savage. Doc Reno was a savage back then. A bunch of other people I trained with, some of them could wrestle, some of them couldn't. Some of them were just tough. Trained with a lot of cops.
Yeah.
And they train like they're fighting because they're training to not die.
Yeah.
Hats off to the police officers and first responders. But it made me better. It really did. It made you, as a smaller person, weaker person, you had to do everything right, or you were going to have instant repercussions. No, I don't need that hook. And then you're on your back. You're like, yep, needed that hook. Or, I got the arm lock, and they just stand up.
God, I feel like that. I feel like that's part of the reason why people need to get in shape now is because there's just so much repercussions for not being in shape, and there didn't used to be because there used to be more room for skill gaps. But like everything's just
everybody's so good now.
Yeah, everybody's better.
I mean, you get. I'm gonna catch a lot of flack for this too. You take today's. I'm not gonna say blue belts. There's some that are. There's some that definitely could. If you take today's like purple belts. Short of a handful, mainly the ADCC guys, they would smoke a lot of the black belts from 10 years ago.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, though.
The game has evolved that much. And I'm not talking about like outpointing them. I think a lot of them would get submitted. Just, I mean, they're doing stuff they've never seen before.
Yeah.
Yeah, training as a teenager, that was honestly probably the best times I had in my life training because I would literally get off of school. North Carolina had what's called after nines and your limited provisional. So your limited provisional was you couldn't drive after 9 o'clock at night. And your after nines that's what we called it. That's your full provisional. You could drive at night.
Yeah.
So great system, by the way. Kept a lot of people out of trouble. So I would get out of school at 3 o'clock. I would be walking through the door of my house at about 3:20, 3:30. I was about 2 miles down the road, but you had that traffic jam getting out of school. Grab something to eat. Get you something small. I would have two. They used to sell them they used to sell them all at the gas station. The big Aquafina balls used to have this big mouth on them. Mm-hmm. I'd have two of them in the freezer that I'd throw in there that morning. They wouldn't be frozen all the way solid. They'd have a wall about that thick, so you'd crack them on the edge of the table. I'd throw them I had a Jeep at the time. Still got that Jeep. Throw them in the passenger seat with all my stuff. I'd either change at the house, which I usually did most of the time, haul ass to the gym. Class started at 1800 every night. So I would get there early, kick the bag. Usually kick the bag. I'd be there about 4:30, 5 o'clock. Kick the bag, hit the bag for a while, start class. When I first started training, it was jiu-jitsu or kickboxing, then jiu-jitsu. Do kickboxing, loved it, still love kickboxing. When I got 5 minutes to swap out, needed jiu-jitsu, I would walk out of the door of the gym at 8:15. Usually, if I timed it just right, got all the lights done, I would be walking through the door of my house at about 8:55. Did it for years. I mean, I did it, and during the summers, we had a 7 a.m., 8 a.m., I can't remember, 8 a.m. class maybe. Early morning, call it that. Get up, go train. Come back to the house, grab something quick to eat, get back to the gym at lunchtime. Go back to the house, get something. We didn't have a microwave at the gym. They had a mini fridge, but that was for the head coach. Come back, hydrate, go back to the gym, train from 1800 to 2000 at night.
Yeah, that seems like something you can only do as a teenager.
I loved it. I did it for as long as I could. I did it well into my 20s. With my job, working a lot of nights and stuff, I could do it. I loved it. I trained all the time. Everything I did was about jiu-jitsu or kickboxing or fighting. Everything was about it. My money, I spent it on geese. I spent it on rash guards. A lot of times I trained in hoodie and sweatpants. Mouthpieces, just your normal stuff. Fortunately, I've only ever had 2 serious injuries. One was both of them are meniscus tears in both knees. They were about 5 years apart. That was the best time of my life. Yeah. Hands down. That was from about when I was. The initial 3 years, learning how not to get killed, were rough, but they were fun. That 3 years after that, where I really started getting it. I could do my own thing, because I never got taught north-south choke. I figured it out. I watched a little bit of Marcelo Garcia's stuff, kind of figured it out. There's actually I think it's still on YouTube. There's an old instructional Jeff Monson did, and I learned a little bit from it. Butterfly guard, I learned that from the head coach. And triangles is what I did for years. I did a lot of triangles. But once I figured that out, I could start doing my own thing, developing my own style. Because really, your coach is teaching you what works for him. And you're going to make it your own. Only one person ever rolls like Marcelo Garcia, and that's Marcelo. There's only one Gordon Ryan.
Yeah.
But you can see where they kind of got their stuff from their head coaches. So, as a teenager, it's great, especially then because your mind's really malleable. You can really learn fast. You're still at that point like a little kid. Even if they're fat, they don't get tired.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like, they got a little furnace down there. And that's the time where you can really get into shape fast.
Yeah, that's where, like, even in doctors' offices, they're like, teenagers, that's when you start elite sports. So that's when you're all primed for it, right? Physically and mentally.
And you're still growing. I mean, I know medical field has their own definition. I really don't think you stop growing until you're about 25. Because I got tailored. I have to wear a certain uniform at work, and we get tailored every so often. My shoulders are still getting bigger. And your shoulders,
not from the
your shoulders don't grow. Like that's bone.
Okay. Oh, okay. The bones.
Because I have my measurements from when I was 17 and a half all the way until now.
Oh, I didn't know that they measured it that way.
And you do get stronger. Man strength is a thing. You don't have it when you're 10. I don't care how much you can lift. I don't care. Farm boy. I don't. There is a certain kind of strength that a man has that a child does not. And I experienced that because I had like big old beer belly fat guys. They would just ragdoll you. I mean, and like there is such thing as man strength. You have to learn how to overcome that. Start learning how to misdirect and stuff like that. That's how you learn that. Being the smaller guy, or not really the smaller guy, the weaker, less athletic person. Mm-hmm. You'd be surprised how many fat guys can move for about 2 minutes. And that 2 minutes is hell. They're still pretty dangerous after that, so you have to take that for what it is. But I mean, I loved it.
Yeah.
Especially like the gym we had a really tight culture. Everybody knew everybody. We were at each other's houses and stuff. I mean, it was a lot of fun. And we're still like that. We still, we have a big crowd goes to the amateur fights. That is what, and it truly is a jiu-jitsu community. That's something that's also changed. You don't have the gym wars anymore. Not near like they used to be.
Yeah, it used to be really brutal from what I've been told.
Oh yeah, you better not let them catch you going into somebody else's gym.
Yeah, it was like
It's not like that now. In most places, there's still some isolated communities that are like that. Again, that's delaying the evolution of the sport. You're not getting that crossbreeding. You're not getting the meeting of the minds. And in every other culture, I shouldn't say culture, every other system, they've learned this. There's a reason the military branches all come together. It used to be the Navy did their thing, the Army did theirs, the Air Force did theirs, Coast Guard did theirs. There's a reason there's a chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff. There's a reason they all intermingle. There's a reason that airmen can go to Army school. You need that to be a better, and that's what we are in combat sports. You're warriors. To be a better warrior, you have to have an open mind and be willing to cross-train. If you're a really good jiu-jitsu guy, you got to be willing to learn how to wrestle. If you're a really good wrestler, you better be willing to learn how to do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see that. You're really seeing it in MMA, and you're seeing it in jiu-jitsu. Like, one of the biggest things, like, these guys had to learn how to get in shape.
Yeah.
Oh, they can grapple for an hour until they can't. Now you got guys that don't get tired and they're strong as hell.
Yeah. Because
they went with the power lifters. They went with the professional athletes. If you think about like a lot of other sports, there are still skills to it, but a lot of it's is who can run faster, who can jump higher, who can lift more. So we had to learn all that to add to jiu-jitsu, and that's what the people coming up now are understanding way more than any of the older guys did. I mean, it's not even a comparison.
It's crazy.
You look at the kids' class. Look at the circuits they got. They're running. They're running circuits as a warm-up.
Circuits as a warm-up. They're when the coaches aren't looking or aren't ready for them, and they show up early, they're doing handstands and headstands against the wall.
Yeah.
Like we used to have them doing front handsprings.
Yeah, they were doing that the other night.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Like, and that's a true example of iron sharpening iron, because they're checking each other.
Mm-hmm.
Hey man, you didn't finish. You need to finish.
Yeah.
So that is where you truly get a better, a more skilled. I don't want to use the word lethal because we're not killing anybody, but like in the military they would call it a lethal force. That's when you truly get it, when people are checking each other.
Yeah. Hey
man, you're not up to stuff. You need to train harder.
Yeah.
And that's what we're getting now.
Yeah.
Because they don't. You look at like the Danaher Death Squad, B team. They don't keep weak people around.
Nope.
Unless they're in like the regular class or the average Joes. At these elite teams, those people pay the bills.
Yep.
They ain't the ones training. Craig and all them, they have their own little class that they do.
I mean, they even made a video about it.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, if you didn't know that, you ain't really been paying attention. That's how.
All right, so we're back. We had a camera overheat because it's a little hot in here, and you know the Sony cameras, they overheat. So we're back. So we were just transitioning over. We talked about how when you're a teenager, that's kind of a really good time to get into becoming elite at any sport, but it also applies to jiu-jitsu. So now I want to talk about how things kind of change when you become an adult. So you're starting to get into your early mid-20s and beyond. Like, let's just talk about it in general terms.
You're way stronger because your man strength's setting in. Generally, your lifestyle's changing. You probably start to get more big boy jobs, maybe education, probably more serious relationships. So that'll detract from your jiu-jitsu training, probably betters your life. Just physical attributes, you're going to get bigger, you're going to get stronger, you're going to get heavier. So the stuff that would work, and you're not as flexible, the stuff that would work when you're a little kid or even a teenager is not going to work quite as good. So you're going to have to change your game, and you're going to be able to do, you'll be able to do things that you couldn't do when you're a teenager. Like when I was a teenager, I could put as much side control pressure as I wanted to on just about anybody, and they would pop me off.
Mm-hmm.
Not even a thing. Now I'm a heavy side control guy. Partially the fact I'm out of shape and I got bad knees, but that also came from being an adult, having man strength. And also it did come from years of training and knowing how to put weight down. The other thing, you'll be able to finish things that you wouldn't ordinarily be able to finish. You'll be able to break grips. You'll be able to kind of will things into happening versus having to make them happen, which can be a good or a bad thing. If you're just out there smashing people, probably a bad thing. If you're focusing on doing things right, it can be a good thing. Because when you have to do them right for real, it's going to be right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So like when you were a teenager and into your early 20s, you were able to do this quite intense training program.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think people that are older can, like, they can't do that? What do you think they can do to kind of help them continue to make progress, at least somewhat like that?
Getting in shape is going to help you the most. I mean, and I will say this. You can lift, run, jump, do whatever you want to do, try to get in shape. If your diet's not where it needs to be, and I'm the worst at it, period, dot. I eat what I want. I love to cook, and I can cook really good, which is not the best thing. And get with a dietitian.
Yeah.
Learn how to eat. Because I notice that if I eat really good for just a day, my next day my training's better. And that's how you can squeeze every bit of blood out of that stone and get what you need out of training. 2, it'll help your recovery. It'll keep your injury, and that's another injury management when you're older is different. Because a little kid, they just spring back. Teenager springs back. Even in your mid-20s, I mean, depending on how bad the injury is, you just spring back pretty good. But like, I know guys that were rolling when they're 40, they got hurt one time, never saw them again.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, and that can happen to anybody, but it's more likely to happen to somebody that's older. But I mean, we got a guy at the gym that's still training. He's been training for
long time,
20 years. But he started later in life, and he's turning 60 in the next couple of years.
Yeah,
and he's still a formidable opponent.
He's very good. Yeah.
But he stayed in shape. He eats mostly well. He doesn't indulge. And when he shows up to train.
Yeah.
That's not.
He's very focused.
That's the other thing. You can't. Adults are going to have a life outside jiu-jitsu. You're not going to be able to do the Craig Jones, or even with the limited stuff I did when I was coming up. You're not going to be able to do that. So if you only got 90 minutes a day, you got to make that 90 minutes count. You can't be bullshitting. You can't be taking time between rounds. You got to go.
Yeah, do not sit out a round when you've only got 90 minutes.
Yeah. If you only got 5 rounds, you sit one out. Well, that's 5. If you're with me, a round is 5 minutes, period, dot. If you sit out for 5 minutes, that's 5 minutes you've lost that you'll never get back.
Yeah, and that's like 20% of your rolling time.
Yeah. If you sit out during the drilling session, that's drills you're never going to get back. I mean, so you got to make it count. That's kind of like David Goggins has something he always says, you got to stay hard. Nothing ever got done by being a bitch. You just don't be a bitch. I mean, what he's David is saying that forthwith. But the thing you can take away from that is, all right, so I didn't want to get running today. You'll never get that back.
Yeah.
I dodged that dude because he smashed me last week. Well, you'll never get that back. Get in there, and if you want to get good at it, you'll get good at it.
Yeah.
It's up to you. Unless there's obviously physical attributes or life gets in the way, I had to go away to work for a couple years where I couldn't train with the people I want to train with, so I had to make do with what I had.
Yeah. Yeah, another thing, other than like you're an adult, bring your adult focus in,
Mm-hmm.
The other thing you could do is, bring in your adult resources,
Mm-hmm.
Personal trainer if you've got that kind of money. At the very least, you could definitely get a gym membership most of the time. Dietitian, like you said, eating the right food. Like you have to leverage what you have. And
Yep.
when you're older, you can leverage a more developed mind and you can leverage a more developed bank account most of the time.
The other thing that'll help you, that's what I love about the jiu-jitsu community. You have no idea who you're rolling with. I roll with doctors, pilots, special operations, cops, EMTs, chiropractors. So you might already have all these resources available.
Yeah.
Now, don't ask them to do anything for free. If they'll sit with you side and hey, my knee hurts all the time. What can I do? We'll just do this.
Yeah.
And do it.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, one of the people that helped me out the most is a new person at the gym. And I had bad knees, and they showed me some mobility stuff. I started doing it. Gary showed me how to lift.
Yeah.
So I mean, you might actually have all this available to you if you're already a part of a gym. And you also got YouTube. Just be careful with what you watch.
Yeah. Have a skeptical eye.
Yeah.
Kind of back it up. See if there's consensus.
If he's telling you to drink a mixture of rat poison and mercury, probably not good. But hey, man, if he's telling you to eat more vegetables, probably pretty sound advice.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it definitely seems like utilizing the resources around you and being focused is kind of how you can make the most progress as fast as you can, right? So now let's transition into the leg locks part. Like I know I've had people commenting and sending messages like, hey, when are we going to like go over how we're supposed to like introduce ourselves to leg entanglements? Because that's something that gives people a lot of anxiety because it's got like the whole like stigmatized thing, although that's much less than it used to be. People don't understand it, so they're just very fearful of it. And, you know, like it's hard to just dive into it because you might not have the right gym culture. You know, how do you do it? I'm curious for myself because I'm kind of in that boat right now. I only have a very cursory knowledge of how to defend them, and I haven't really learned how to do them.
So with leg locks, a good rule of thumb is that you shouldn't start playing them till you're about a mid-level blue belt. By then, you've developed, you should have developed enough of a wherewithal of how to pass a guard, how to apply pressure, and how to control someone to where you can probably roll them safely. Leg locks are not good for a flow drill. They usually stop the flow. They're also not good for a flow drill because you're moving fast. They're more of a controlled thing. I don't think there's truly a negative thing from learning more. How you apply that knowledge is where the negatives come in. If you're learning just to tap people, you're going to hurt somebody and you're going to stunt your game. We had a guy at the old gym that he learned how to do one leg lock really early. He could not pass a guard. His transitions were not that smooth, but man, he could leg lock anybody in the gym until he couldn't. So I would say have your toolbox ready. Like, all right, I can pass a guard, check. And how you judge that is not you can pass the guy that's been doing it for 2 weeks guard. Can you pass somebody at your level's guard? If yes, check. Can I hold somebody down? Big thing with me because, again, like I said, I try to roll at least some of the time as if I'm being hit or I'm throwing punches. If you can't hold somebody down, you can't do that. That goes into control. Same rules, same caveats as rule 1. All right, can I take somebody I've been training with for a while, hold them down? Yep, all right, check. Am I a spaz? This is a hard one for some people because there's a lot of spazzes that don't know they're spazzes. All right, well, every time I roll, somebody has a bloody nose. You know, my elbows hurt from chinking off their forehead, and usually people get pissed at me. I'm probably a spaz.
Yeah.
That's not a check. You can't do it. So if you can check those 3 boxes, you're probably safe enough and have the academic jiu-jitsu nerd side of the game down well enough that you can train leg locks safely. You should pick your partners. There's only a handful of people I'll roll leg locks with. Now, I'll caveat that with this. If we're rolling and I've never met you and you try to leg lock me, I will leg lock you back. I think that's fair. But like here, Chase, we've rolled for years. We rolled leg locks with each other. Scott, we rolled leg locks with each other. I've never hurt either one of them with a leg lock. I fell on Chase one time. Just fucked up. I mean, as far as how to apply them, it's like any other submission. Take the slack out and have the. If you have so much of an ego that you're willing to break somebody's arm in a gym session, you probably shouldn't roll leg locks.
Probably shouldn't roll.
And if you don't have part of the awareness thing I was talking about, is if you don't know you're caught, you're gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
So, I'm not gonna tap. Well, in real life, you'd have no ACL right now, and you'd be limping. So that's where that comes from. Like I said before, most people use leg locks as a crutch, or used to use leg locks as a crutch. Gordon Ryan, I love his example for this reason alone. Gordon Ryan can submit 90% of the people in the world without doing one leg lock. It's usually the easiest avenue, and that's what he goes for. He submits a lot of people with arm triangles. A lot of them with rear nakeds. Some of them with arm locks. Craig Jones can submit probably 90% of the people in the world without ever using leg locks. You have some people that defy that a little bit, like Ryan Hall gets picked on for being a leg locker. But I think if you look up his jiu-jitsu record, he's got like 300 wins by triangle.
Yeah.
So part of his game was he's a very sophisticated guard player, and if you're not, I shouldn't say a simple guard player, but like a good example is Marcelo Garcia. He had X, single leg X, and butterfly. All relatively simple guards. You're trying to take a post away and sweep, or split them and stand up, or post away and sweep. Ryan's not that guy. He's an inversion type player. So naturally, he's already underneath people, and the legs are available. Gordon switches gears a lot. He does what we call shoulder pinch sweep. It's been a butterfly sweep forever. Marcelo was doing it in the early 2000s. Very effective. Works like a charm. But Gordon does break the mold a little bit. He's a very simple, very effective guard player. He doesn't do any super crazy inversions. He's not Baron Bolo. He really doesn't do that much De La Hiva. He does a lot of sit-up guard. Does some close guard. But you're more the guys that are trying to reach the outer edges of the sport, those were your leg lockers.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I've done arm locks to my blue in the face. I've done Kimuras a lot, done a lot of chugs, done a lot of this, done a lot of that. Let's try something new. If you're smart about it, you can do damn near anything. If you're smart about it, you can play with fire and not get burned. But leg locks, I think they get a bad rap for, like, the same people that hurt people with leg locks are usually the same people that hurt people with everything else.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because the guys I can think of off the top of my head that hurt people with leg locks hurt people with other things too. But I would recommend it to anybody. At least learn them just to kind of have that in your back pocket, because you'd be surprised. And this is what gets a lot of people onto leg locks. How many higher level dudes, one, will kind of flash tap like, oh, she's got me a leg lock. And you really didn't apply anything. You just scared them. Whereas that same guy, if you put him in rear naked, you almost have to put him out before he'll tap.
Yeah.
But as soon as you grab his leg, up, shit, tap. So that, you get some of that. You'd be surprised how just trying new things, and not just in the form of leg locks, but learn how to wrestle, or maybe a guard pass you've never tried before. Or like for me, when I started standing guard pass, I hurt my left knee. So I had to start passing right knee first. Now that's the only way I pass. So, and leg locks do the same thing for you. So it'll open up new avenues. You'll start finding you can pass a lot of people's guard. You'll also find that you can sweep a lot of people you normally wouldn't sweep. Using a lot of 50-50 type stuff. You're going to end up in a lot of places you normally don't end up. You end up with people on your back, because when you invert and you're grabbing his leg, your back is available. You end up in a lot of weirder transitions, and you're going to end up in places that you have no idea what to do. Embrace it. That's the fun part about jiu-jitsu. Now the leg lock game has gotten really sophisticated. There's a YouTube video on damn near everything you need to know about it. Nicky Ryan, Gordon Ryan, Craig Jones, Ryan Hall. People forget about him. Another one people forget about is Dean Lister. I'm no jiu-jitsu. I'm a jiu-jitsu nerd. I'm not a jiu-jitsu historian. I will say the first person I ever saw win a legitimate tournament with leg locks was Dean Lister. And I'm pretty sure, I may be misquoting this, I'm pretty sure in one of Danaher's interviews, that's where he claims he got the inspiration from. So if you wanna trace the modern leg locking game back, it's probably gonna start somewhere around the late '90s with Dean Lister. Sambo guys had some stuff to do with it, although I will say that, at least in my experience, it was always there in jiu-jitsu. The Sambo guys were just willing to play it for reasons we've already stated. The negative stigma, people getting hurt. I will say that no white belt should be doing leg locks. Period. Dot. You don't even know how to do what you're doing anyways. You don't need something else. Mid-level blue belt, maybe even low purple belts when they should start. Which in the formal jiu-jitsu world, that's kind of where they align. Purple belts when you start doing some leg locks.
Yeah, it's even reflected in most of the rule sets.
Yep.
Yep.
So, and obviously straight is going to be more dangerous than crooked. Most people don't really know what crooked is, but like the knee reap thing is something I absolutely can't stand. And you saw it come from IBJJF.
Wait, let me interrupt. You said straight more dangerous than crooked? I thought crooked was more
crooked more dangerous than straight, excuse me.
Right.
People just don't know, people don't know what crooked versus straight looks like. Crooked means you're twisting. And this is Henry's definition, not anybody else's. You're twisting. All right. Straight means you're either pulling the foot straight over or you're doing a knee bar. So it's just a arm lock on my leg. Anything that's not that is a crooked foot lock. The rule set does not reflect that. And partially because they didn't want people leg locking, so they try to make it as illegal as they could. There's one that really kind of falls out from both of those, and that's so old school people call it a compression. Some people call it a calf slicer. They're one and the same. You're just putting something in this gap, closing it, and trying to pop the joint out. That's what a compression or slicer really is. It's just how you do it. One you do with your hands, one you do with your legs. The same goal is accomplished. Reaping the knee should not be illegal. It shouldn't. Like I said before, your stuff's not just going to break. If you're holding somebody's foot and you're twisting it while you're reaping the knee, that's what we call a leg lock.
Yeah.
That's it. That would be a crooked foot lock. Knee bar, in my experience, it took me a long time before I could really figure out how to finish knee bars because people's legs are really strong. Ankle lock, that's person to person. My ankles go really quick. I've had mine blown out. Really severely sprained with straight ankle locks. I've seen some people that their ankle is so damn strong that the shin snaps before the ankle goes. And it's crazy. Hector Lombard did it to a kid in a tournament. Heel hooks, it's people not knowing how to apply them and people not knowing when to tap. I will say this, a heel hook doesn't hurt. Even when you pop it, it really doesn't hurt that bad until about 20 minutes later. Whereas like an arm lock or even a knee bar like that, shit is hurting way before it breaks. Whereas a heel hook, something pop.
So would you recommend that people stick to like straight ankles and knee bars? Toe holds? What do you think about toe holds?
Honestly, I think you should, once you learn your solid foundation, I think you should be trusted enough that you could do whatever you want to do. Toe holds, it's really just going to break the foot, maybe break the ankle. Me personally, there's a couple ways to finish a toe hold. Some people use it as a substitute for they'll have a heel hook here, and they'll actually push it through, and it looks like it's a figure four lock, but it's on a heel hook. So to me, that falls under what I said before. You're now twisting and not pushing it straight over. So that toe holds, the thing I like about them is they're everywhere. If I can put my pinky finger on your pinky toe, I have a toe hold. And that's anywhere.
Right.
Back to what I said before. Yeah, if you grab it and you just rip it, one, you're an asshole, unless it's a real fight. Two, that would break any submission.
Any submission. Yep.
If I grab an arm lock, I just bam. Yeah, it's gonna break.
Yeah.
So I don't know where the smoke and mirrors and the mystique of leg locks, how they're set up. Part of it maybe your legs are longer than your arms, so you have a little bit longer lever. But I'm trying to think. So in tournaments, I've popped somebody's ankle. I've had mine popped twice. I don't think I've really seen. I mean, the most famous televised ones is Romeo. I can't say it. Bahal. So Romeo. I think it's Romelo. That's how you say his name.
I don't remember.
He got his. He got. That's because he wouldn't tap. So if he just tapped, it wouldn't have got broken. That was with a toe hold. In a gi, by the way. And Vinny Magalesh when he competed against Craig Jones, same thing, wouldn't tap. Those are your examples. And an example of somebody going way too hard on him, Bruce Marpahars.
Yeah, I was gonna say Paul Harris.
He got kicked out of the UFC for it. But if you look, he torqued Jake Shields' arm really bad in the MMA fight because even after Jake was tapping, he wouldn't let go. He would have broken anything. And he's also 5'6" or 7" and 230 pounds.
That's a lot of torque.
So I mean, he's gonna that kind of a human being is gonna. I mean, let's face it, size does matter. And take a 115-pound female, and it's gonna sound like an asshole, but like, even if she's a black belt, she's not gonna have the same amount of torque as a 225-pound man. It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, that's just physics.
Yeah, simple physics. And you could let her torque on. This is a fictitious person, by the way. You could let her torque on your foot much longer than you could that giant.
Yeah.
Because it's not even going to slow down for him or her. It's going to, no. Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Pow. And where's that giant? Oh, yeah, I got it. Bam.
Yeah, it's much faster.
So, I mean, you got some of that. I don't really see a problem. If you do it correctly, I don't see a problem with leg locks. I really don't. You just have to it's like any other tool. Like, would I do it in MMA? Probably not. Because you end up on bottom without a way to get up. By the way, if the guy's on top of it, he's going to be caving your face in.
Yeah.
Because he don't want you to break his foot. Jiu-Jitsu, go for it.
Yeah.
It looks great for the crowd. You spin underneath. You do a really cool transition. Now the crowds are educated enough because it's usually a bunch of jiu-jitsu nerds watching it anyways. No regular fan watches jiu-jitsu. It's all us watching it.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, look out in the crowd. It's a bunch of cauliflower ears and dudes walking like this. Man,
it's just so funny. Anytime I show, like, I'm going to say normal person. We're kind of normal. I don't know.
You could tell I did jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, but anytime I show someone who has no idea what jiu-jitsu is, like a match, like 50-50, they start giggling. Like, that's what you do?
Oh, yeah.
Especially with the twirly stuff. Like,
I love it. I mean, that's jiu-jitsu. I won't say it's pure, not its most basic, but one of its, like, purest, coolest forms. You start to, they're transitioning. He's upside down. He's in for her. Bam, he's got a heel hook. That's cool.
That's what I'm watching for.
Yeah, I mean, Craig Jones, when he caught Tex, that was one of the cleanest heel hooks I've ever seen. He just fell right into it. Bam, Tex tapped in. And Tex was smart. He tapped almost instantly. He knew Craig had it.
Yeah. And
Tex walked off to the mat, and he was fine. Vinny had a spiral fracture down his tibia.
Yeah.
Bahal, pretty sure he broke his foot. I mean, he did a lot of damage. That was a lot of damage. I mean, it was probably a lot more than just a broken foot, but if it hurts, you tap. If you think it's good, this is for anybody starting jiu-jitsu. If it is uncomfortable, you're scared, because you're going to be scared, tap.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a submission. I can't stand that. Oh, I wasn't in a submission. All right, so your ribs broke when I went knee on belly. That's not a submission. You still should tap from it. I mean, I'm having a mild stroke and I can't see out of my left eye.
You should have tapped.
Yeah, you tap. Oh, Joe, what's wrong, bro?
Yeah.
You know? So tap. I mean, learning how to tap is one of the things that will save you so much heartache.
Yeah.
Tap. I mean, you don't even have to tap. You don't have to tap and let go.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah. Anytime I talk to the kids about it, I talk to beginners about it. I'm like, if it feels really late to you, you verbalize it at the same time.
Yep.
Every time.
So, I mean, actually 2 kids rolling. Me and Chase were rolling on one side of the mat, and we were trying to watch the kids while we were rolling. It was one of the days that nobody showed up to the adult class, and very few kids showed up, so me and Chase rolled. So we're rolling, and I can't even remember. Like, me and him both stopped mid-roll because this kid's like, man, that hurts really bad. Like, everyone's like, I was like, if it hurts really bad, you should probably tap. Like, oh, yeah, you're right. He taps. I was like, of course, the kid's like, that's the other thing about a little kid. They're made out of rubber, so his elbow is like out to here, and his arm's all the way over. And I was like, Jesus. Like, of course, he was fine the next day. Oh, yeah, I'll be all right. It's a little kid. They're freaking immortal.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
Indestructible. Yeah. Yeah, with leg locks, man, learn how to tap, training correctly, just like you do with anything else. You wouldn't go, I mean, even weight-lift, like you wouldn't go in, I'm going to try to deadlift 900 pounds. All right, yeah, you're going to blow your back out.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Well, would you say that that just getting to the setup is good enough? Like,
yeah.
If you don't know, you know what?
If you
like,
don't know.
Like, what should people be looking for if they're just getting started? First month or 2 of even introducing themselves to leg entanglements.
You can actually just use it. You can use 50-50 guard just to sweep. Just use it to sweep, or like a great leg lock that everybody probably should know is like if you got somebody on a plot and he connects his hands underneath, just reach back, do a toe hold.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because you still got the omoplata, so that's a move you've done for years at this point. And you can use a toe hold. If you grab it, you can just roll over and sweep. Now you're on top.
Yep.
You didn't hurt anybody. It's not a particularly dangerous submission, but you're still applying a leg lock. If you want to be super fancy, same position, unlatch your legs, slide your inside knee in, and go for the knee bar on the backside. If you want to add another iteration, when he bends his leg to get out of the knee bar, lock in. They call it ashi. It's inside heel hook. It's always been inside heel hook. Lock your hands together, you got a heel hook.
So
there's your very basic intro of a position that you already know, which is omoplata, and a position that you've had to deal with people locking their hands. Now you can use a leg lock to further your game, where you couldn't do that before. You'd have to sweep, figure out how to break his hands, maybe take his back. If he's got gi on, try to choke. I mean, there you go.
Yeah, just tack on the simple fundamental leg locks to the positions that you're in frequently.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Like one thing that I've been incorporating is like the toe hold, the cheat one where it makes them have to get rid of their knee shield.
Yeah. That's another easy one. Is boop, there's toe hold. If he straightens his leg out, let it go and you pass.
Yep.
Or you can the same thing. You go toe hold, or you can fall back and go to a heel hook.
Mm-hmm.
I never understood the stigma behind them. I knew people got hurt, but it was the same people that were going to get hurt because they didn't tap, or the same people that were going to hurt people because they went too hard.
Yeah.
So what are you really saying? You're hurting everybody else because of, a couple of idiots.
Yeah.
If you're smart and you train with people that are smart and roll like they have a little bit of sense, I'm not going to say you're not going to get hurt. You're going to get hurt. You need to make your peace with that right now.
Yeah.
But your chances of being injured are significantly reduced.
Yeah.
Don't roll leg locks with strangers. It's not going to go good. If you roll with somebody, now if you leave a tournament, you're rolling with strangers, different, but like the tournament's different. But go to another school. My policy I put on myself when I go to schools to train, if I'm traveling or something, upper body submissions only. Unless they try to do it to me.
It makes sense.
You'll never be in trouble.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, tack on your leg stuff to your existing game as much as you can.
and people that want to, I will say, if you're trying to compete in jiu-jitsu, you don't have leg locks, you're going to get smashed. It's just that simple. If you don't want to play leg locks, you should at least know enough to avoid them. Wrestlers learn this in about the first 3 classes. If they keep their head in front of them and their feet behind them, you cannot leg lock them.
Yep.
Example of this. I hate to keep bringing up MMA fights, but this is a good example. Brock Lesnar versus Frank Mir 1. Lesnar stood straight up. Frank inverted, caught a knee bar. 90 seconds. Brock Lesnar, Frank Mir 2. Brock took Frank down, kept his feet behind him, kept chest to chest, stayed heavy. TKO on the ground.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't really see that in jiu-jitsu because the dynamic is they're obligated to grapple. There's stall calling, or should be stall calling, and sometimes it don't happen. Another shout out to ADCC. ADCC refs are the best in the industry. Don't care what you say. You're still obligated to grapple, so you're gonna get more of the entanglements. They don't have to worry about getting hit. They have slicker entries. The athletes are just training to grapple, not learn how to wrestle, not learn how to kickbox, not learn how to do all this other stuff. Don't have a cage. So you'll see a lot more intricate leg entanglements that wouldn't work. I shouldn't say a real world situation, but if somebody's punching you in the face, I mean, unless I know I can break it, I probably wouldn't do a leg lock. If mythical situation, you get knocked down and he's in your guard, I'm not inverting for a leg lock. I'm going to sweep. Or if I can get something, it's getting broken. Yeah. With that being said, I love leg locks. I mean, I'm actually, in the tight circles I roll in, I'm actually kind of known as a leg lock guy. The reason I am is, like I stated before, people quit offering their arms to me.
That's true.
I mean, it's just that simple.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say, if there was a order of preference for learning jiu-jitsu, and we're assuming you're already in shape, because that's number one. If you can't physically do it, then all of these don't apply. Is your foundation good? Do you have a good base? Can you not be swept? Can you hold side control? Can you hold somebody's back? Can you stay in mount? Are you good controlling and like setting up arm locks? Can he not just rip his arm out? The structure. Next comes, can you move? Can you transition without losing everything? Whoop de shit, you passed his guard, now he's on your back. That's not a step up. So can I transition from going, all right, I've broken his legs apart. Can I knee slice through? Can I get through without him being able to set up some form of offensive? Check. All right. If I get to somewhere, can I finish from somewhere? Do I have at least 2 submissions from side control that I can do on either side, and well enough to where if I get them established, it's about a 75 to 80% of the time it's done. Can I do it from side control? Can I do it from knee on belly? Can I do it from somebody's back? Can I do it from mount? Can I do it from bottom side? And if I can't do it from this position, am I good enough at getting to a position where I can? Check. And this is gi or no gi.
Yeah.
So if it starts on the feet, can I get it to the ground? Can I sit down? Can I wrestle? Can I do a little bit of judo? If I got a little foot sweep I can do. Check. All right. The last thing is leg locks. The reason I put the wrestling so far down is if it's a grappling match, it's a grappling match. It's going to get to the ground.
Yeah.
It may not be in your favor. And that's where Rule 1 comes in. If I get taken down, do I have the foundation to recover from a bad position? which goes into Rule 2. Can I transition from a bad position to a good position? Which Rule 3, can I go to a finishing position from a good position? Rule 4, can I make a good position from nothing? Down to leg locks.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. I wish that people would do it in that order, and not skip straight to leg locks. I feel like a lot of the times those people, they're shooting themselves in the foot.
It's a learning process. It's no different than any other learning process. I love math. I've always been good at math. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally.
PEMDAS.
Any math you do where it's more than one operation, PEMDAS is going to apply.
Yeah.
I remember kind of comparing jiu-jitsu to college or school in general. Straight A's in math from the time I started doing math. Calc 2, first day. What do you think they went over?
PEMDAS.
Wrote it in big letters on the board. This is college level calculus. We're supposed to already know that, but you still have to put it up there because people don't follow it.
That's true. Man, they did that at my college calculus class too.
It's the best thing to learn. Jiu-jitsu is no different. Man, I can do a flying arm bar, but I can't tie up. Well, that don't mean anything. You know, I mean, I'm great on top. I just can't get on top. Well, that's a problem. You figure out how to get on top or get good on the bottom.
Yeah.
And you'll see that with the best in the world. Marcelo Garcia finished from side control and somebody's back probably 80% of the time.
Yep.
He is, and I'm going to put this out there, he is the best in history at getting to people's back and getting on top. His guard game was nothing more than a sweep game.
That's true.
Very, very rarely did he submit people from the bottom.
Yeah.
And that's why he was a 154-pounder. I think it was 154. I can't remember his exact weight. He's under 160 pounds. That placed bronze in the ADCC Absolute Division. He submitted Rico. He submitted Sanjay. He submitted Victor Estema. He submitted Holes Gracie. He did actually really good against Hodger Gracie in the gi. He swept Hodger. It's an example of somebody that, all right, man, I'm going against people that are bigger than me and stronger. I've got to get gravity on my side. Mm-hmm. I've got to get on top. I got to get on his back to where everything on our anatomy is geared to go forward. That's why your legs face that way. That's why my eyes are together. I look that way. I cannot physically grab something of any kind of weight and pull it from here to here. I have to turn and face it. So get on people's back.
Yeah. Yeah, jiu-jitsu at its most fundamental, right?
Yeah, I mean, and you look at anybody, they're like that. Gordon has his finishing position. It's usually mount or somebody's back, unless it's a leg lock.
Yeah, but none of these people are missing anything from the PEMDAS.
Nope, they're not. They know how to establish control. They know how to get good. Contrary to what a lot of people think, there's a lot of pressure, and even the smallest jiu-jitsu player's game. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of pressure. They know how to get to where they need to be. They know how to finish, and that if you learn that sooner, the better.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of a time where I just I mean, I'm sure it's happened. I can't think of a time where I didn't set something up and it worked. I really can't. That's why that's one of the nice things about grappling as a sport. There's very few lucky. I'm not going to say never, because never is not really a good word for it, but there's almost never a lucky triangle. Yeah. Unless punches are involved.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean,
because of the belt level dropping thing.
Or you get halfway knocked out and he jumps on your back.
Yeah.
But in just grappling, more so than kickboxing, I hate to throw him out there. One of my favorite kickboxers ever, Ernesto Hooks, got TKO'd twice by somebody that has a losing record.
Yeah.
A gentleman by the name of Bob Sapp beat one of the best kickboxers in the world at the time twice because he's bigger and stronger, and caught him with a punch. Bob Sapp got tapped out by somebody of approximately the same size as Ernesto by the name of Minotauro Nogueira. Hats off to him, one of the greats, because he got damaged greatly in that fight. He established position, swept Bob, got on top, sunk in arm lock.
Yeah.
We've seen numerous examples of that. I've probably, jiu-jitsu matches, I've probably watched more than 1,000. MMA fights, I've probably watched, 2,500. From all organizations. Pride, Elite X, some bunch of them ain't around anymore. Cage Rage, King of the Cage, UFC 1, all the way up to current. There are thousands of lucky punches in MMA. There's thousands of lucky punches in boxing. There's thousands of lucky punches in kickboxing. I cannot name a single time in sport jiu-jitsu where somebody got lucky and submitted another person. I've seen people get tired.
Yeah, but that's
I've seen people make
luck.
I've seen people make a mistake and the guy capitalize on it.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen anybody, slip on a banana peel and and that's where, if you follow your fundamentals, if you want to call it a checklist, follow the checklist, you're good to go.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that was I really liked breaking it down at the end with creating that fundamental checklist. We called it PEMDAS because we like math.
Yeah.
But yeah, do it at the end, and just make it be a part of your game.
Mm-hmm.
Tack on your leg entanglements.
Don't change your game just to try to do leg locks. Just mix them in where they mix in.
Yep.
Like my game, I did a lot of half guard. Still do a lot of half guard. So a lot of my leg locks look a lot like a knee bar on the far side.
Makes sense.
I do a lot of standing guard passing. So a lot of mine are drop through heel hooks. Don't completely change your game, because then if you want to do it just for the academic experience, do it, but then you're taking yourself out of your strong suits. So the years you spent developing a good butterfly guard, if you try to completely change it, well, those years are kind of wasted. I will say, pick a day. If you train 5 days a week like I did, I always picked one day where I was doing stuff that I never did. And if you're better than everybody in the class, let them start out in better positions. Let them start out side control. Let them start out on your back. Let them start out half guard. Let them, and that's how you can truly learn. But you still focus. You still have your bread and butter that you always have. Like I said before, most submissions, even at the highest level, are an arm lock, a triangle, and a rear naked.
Yeah. So
I would like to see the percentages, because I'm willing to bet those three.
I've looked at them recently. They're friggin' ridiculously high.
In a gi, Ezekiel, bow and arrow, cross collar.
Yep.
Your three fundamental gi chokes. The three, for me specifically, the first three submissions I learned ever are still three that I use all the time. Armbar, triangle, and omoplata. I use omoplata and arm lock religiously. I don't do as many triangles as I used to. So try to develop your game around one stuff that works until you don't change. It's kind of like be yourself. Don't change who you are to try to be like somebody else. There's a reason Gordon Ryan's game works for Gordon Ryan. There's a reason Marcelo's game works for Marcelo. There's a reason, like Eddie Bravo is a perfect example. I will never be able to do what Eddie Bravo does. I don't have the flexibility. I'll break. You'll hear a loud crack followed shortly by a high-pitched scream. Eddie beat some of the best in the world.
Yeah.
Because he took something, he still had fundamentals. He could still pass guard. He could still play regular guard. He's like, man, this regular guard stuff don't work for me, but if I bring my foot up here, I can keep people down. Works.
Yeah.
Ryan Hall, same way.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't make it too fancy.
Yeah.
Build around what your core is. Like, your fundamentals will be slightly different than other people's fundamentals.
Well, like the wrestlers, their stance doesn't look all that much different when they walk out than when they were wrestling in college. They've been there. They know exactly where they're at. They know exactly what they need to do. Same thing. This doesn't, back to culture shifts. This doesn't, like, the 10th Planet guys don't hate on everybody else, and people don't hate on 10th Planet like they used to. But you're starting to see guys like, I forget his name. If I hadn't thought about it, I could tell you. But the dude had an excellent a killer butterfly guard, but he could play rubber guard. Highly unusual. Excellent leg locker, but he submitted a lot of people from the top. So, I mean, so allow the cross-pollination and learn as much as you can. I mean, that's really your goal in life in general, is learn as much as you can. At least for me it is. I don't know about other people, but
I think that depends on the person.
So, I mean, yeah, if you're trying to be successful in jiu-jitsu, that's what you need. And if you don't, and right now the plain and simple truth is, if you do not have leg locks, you will not succeed in jiu-jitsu. Period. Dot. Yeah. Look at all the best in the world.
Yeah, if you're going for competition,
yeah,
you have to have leg locks.
And if you're a gym that allows you to roll leg locks and you don't know them, you're just going to be religiously getting tapped.
Yep.
And I will say this, even the guys that don't do no leg locks know how to defend them. Keep throwing his name out there. My favorite, Marcelo.
Yep.
Look at him when he rolled Ryan Hall in his gym. Ryan Hall never leg locked him. He knew how to he could defend leg locks well enough that they were almost a non-factor.
Yeah.
Look at Gordon Ryan this last time around with Nicky Rod. Greasing aside, do I think he was greasing? I don't know. I wasn't there. Have both of them encountered greasing before? Probably. Have both of them greased before? 50-50. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Don't know. Nicky learned how to defend. Nicky Rod learned how to defend leg locks a little bit, and it made it that much harder for Gordon.
Yeah.
Gordon was coming off some health problems. I'll give him that, but it's probably a little bit of both. And you'll find that when you first start doing leg locks, they're like a magic trick. You'll submit everybody in your gym for about 3 weeks. Then you won't.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. It's funny how that works. It's not just leg lock. It's just anything that's like new to the gym. It's almost like, you're introducing a new virus.
It makes your gym small. It makes your gym better because you're introducing another factor. That factor creates stress, which then creates evolution.
Yeah.
That's how evolution works.
Yep.
If it didn't, we'd still be amoebas. I mean, something came in that made things change, or they would cease to exist. The jiu-jitsu I started with 15 years ago is not the same jiu-jitsu it is now. It's still there. You can still see it in there. But we weren't doing leg locks like they're doing them now. One, because you couldn't. You get laughed out of the room. Two, people are actually training leg locks, and it's okay to train leg locks. Three, people are in better shape. And that's really the big part of three.
Yeah.
If you don't want to train leg locks, it's fine. I didn't train. I really didn't fully train leg locks till I've been doing jiu-jitsu for about 6 years. That's when I started training them. Truly training. Did I know how to do them? Yes. But was I applying them in rolls? No. Never. Almost never. In fact, the first time I applied a leg lock for real, for a tap, was in a tournament.
What a time to test it.
No, I had him dead to rights. This is one of them things that's like, man, this is going to happen this way. That's really about it.
Yeah. Well, that was really fun. A lot of good stuff here. We bounced around a little bit. But yeah, generally speaking, stick to your fundamentals. Add your leg locks in at the right time. Use your adult stuff, your adult resources.
It's called common sense.
Yeah, your adult mental, mental development to like kind of like navigate things when you're training as an adult and navigating the leg locks as an adult, right? Just common sense. Anyway, thanks for being
thanks
on
for
the
having me.
podcast.
Yeah.
And leave comments, and we will see you in the next video.
Yep. See you guys.